Hi guys, it's Liam here from Rating the Races, and today we're going to look at the fourth day of the Cheltenham 2020 Festival, which was the Friday, which was Gold Cup Day. We started off with the Triumph Hurdle. Going into the Triumph Hurdle, I thought it was going to be a very, very strong Triumph Hurdle, and looked like there were going to be 3 or 4 players who would be fighting at the finish, including Solo, All Mankind, Aspire Tower and Goshen. However, one of these was significantly better than the rest, and that was Goshen. By the time he turned for home, he was already getting a few of them off the bridle, and by the time he came to the last, he was 10 plus lengths in front, and only had to jump the last to be one of the most impressive Triumph Hurdle winners I have seen. Unfortunately, he made a bit of a mess at the last after Jamie Moore asked him up. He was on the right stride, so the jockey did nothing wrong. As he landed, Jamie, I thought, was going to maintain the partnership. He was leaning off to the side, but we've seen plenty of jockeys make miraculous recoveries like that. And then he seemed to jink, and Jamie came off. And it wasn't until after the race that they showed it like a replay. It showed that 2 of his feet actually got caught together, a front foot and a back foot, or a front and a hind, got caught together somehow, like the shoes got caught together, and it was the release of that then made the horse jink a bit further and tipped Jamie over the top. Wherever he goes, he's going to be competitive. I thought he looked massive and like a big strong horse, and could definitely go over fences, although the Champion Hurdle is the race he's being touted for or aimed at by Gary Moore, with some runs on the flat in between. Wherever he goes on the flat, he should be very, very competitive, off a mark of, I believe he's rated 89 on the flat. And over hurdles, he should certainly be. I can see why they're going for the Champion Hurdle, and he could be one of these 5-year-olds that could win a Champion Hurdle. He's got to be very, very good, but he did look like he was going to be very, very... Or he showed enough to suggest he is very, very good in the Triumph Hurdle, and he's one that I'm really looking forward to seeing again, wherever he goes next year. I doubt we'll see him again over hurdles until next season, especially with the coronavirus ruling a lot of the races out. But on the flat, I look forward to seeing him on the flat. He should be continually improving on the flat as well. And yeah, he's the only one to take out the race for me. I thought all the others were quite well beaten. It could be unfair on the race. It could be that Burning Victory, Aspire Tower and All Mankind were the best 3 in behind, and of the usual Triumph Hurdle level. And Goshen just wasn't of Triumph Hurdle level. He was of much better level. I suppose we were on Solo before the Adonis, and his trainer, Paul Nicholls, has always suggested that he's a chaser in the making, but the way he won the Adonis meant they had to run it in the Triumph. He could be interesting going forward, but obviously one of these is going to be very, very smart, and that's Goshen. So let's move on to the second race, which was the County Hurdle. And there was a bit of a handicap plot here, wasn't there? Saint Oy was a very, very impressive and quite comfortable winner, and the handicapper has responded to this victory by raising him £16. £16, that's a huge rise in the handicap, but he certainly deserved it, and the handicapper has taken no chances there. The horses that caught my eye in behind, certainly Aramon, given a very patient ride. He was 19th coming to the second last. 19th with, 3/4 of a mile to go? And he's absolutely motored around the outside and picked up, and it was very reminiscent of Wicklow Brave. And he's certainly one to look out for next season, especially if they do a whole let's aim for this race. We were beaten by a very, very well handicapped horse. Are we likely to meet one that well handicapped next season? Probably not. If he comes back to the County Hurdle for a similar mark, he'll go very, very close next year, and I'll be looking at him in around December, January sort of time. Build Me Up Buttercup did her usual, travelled really, really well. She's not quite got home. I think she doesn't find a lot. She seems to do this in all of her races. It may be that she's not getting home over a 2-mile trip. It may be she wants further. She's definitely going to be dropped back to the flat, where she's going to run some more big races on the flat over 1.5 miles, 1.2 miles in the big handicaps. It's whether you can really trust her to finish off her race well enough to actually win one of these, now that she's quite high handicapped in both hurdles and on the flat. Elusive Belle ran a great race for 5th. She franks the form of Epatante and French Crusader. She was 3rd to Epatante and French Crusader. And I think the race was quite strong. And I wouldn't be putting you off any of the 3 or 4 behind, potentially next season, if they arrive on similar marks. Mohamed, I think he finished 9th for Dan Skelton. He's run he's run a solid race again. It may be he's now regressing, as he was off a lower mark and he's still only finished 9th. He's probably not the one I'd be looking at next season. Of those that ran, Aramon is the one. So we move on to the Albert Bartlett, and this race came under a bit of scrutiny afterwards, because Paul Townend actually got a 4-day ban for his ride on the winner, Monkfish. He came across the 4th place Time Hill at a crucial stage. Time Hill was just about to come through the gap between Monkfish and Latest Exhibition, and they squeezed and cut off Time Hill, who had to take a check. Again, Time Hill started to pick up after the last, which was suggesting that he still had plenty to give, when Fury Road came across him, and he had to switch again, and he's only finished at 1.5 lengths behind the winner. And you could clearly see that Richard Johnson was very disappointed after the race. He kind of remonstrated with his hands, probably suggesting that he felt he was unfairly cut up or hampered by those in front of him. I think the race will be quite strong. Monkfish did make a mistake over the far side that could have certainly knocked plenty of the stuffing out of him. Time Hill is the one I want to take forward going forward, especially over hurdles. I'd like to keep him over hurdles and aim for the stayers hurdle. I think the type of race will suit him well. He's shown that 3 miles isn't an issue, and I think he's quite smart. Latest Exhibition has run a great race in 2nd, not beaten far as well. He also will be winning Grade 1s over in Ireland. Janet Dill was one I'd been aiming to back in certain handicaps at the festival, and he's run a good race for 5th. I wouldn't be giving up on him. He might not be quite Grade 1 company, but I do wonder whether he could win another race off his handicap mark. The form just keeps getting franked. All the right horses keep coming out and running well in handicaps, and he might not be quite done in a handicap yet. Just keep an eye out for Janadil if he drops into a handicap again. So anyway, we'll move on to the big race, which was the Gold Cup, and wow, this was a fantastic race. I loved watching this, and I could kind of make a case for 2, 3, 4 of them for future races. Album Photo, our top-rated horse, won the race again, and he did it well. He jumped well, he battled well, he held off the challengers, he held off Lost in Translation, and then kept going to hold off Santini late on. And he deserved to win. He was, on the day, the best horse in the race, in my opinion. I thought one of the unluckiest ones in the race was actually the 2nd place, so there's probably not a lot between him and Album Photo. I know there was only like half a length anyway, but there's probably even less than that between them. Santini did get cut up twice, just as he came into the last, and after the last he had to pull himself out and go around Album Photo before running on strongly all the way up the hill. He's certainly a 3 mile 2 at least horse, Santini. If he hadn't been aimed at Grade 1 races, he would have been a Welsh National or even a Grand National horse. But obviously his handicap mark is right at the very top now, so I can't see him ever running in handicaps, or at least until he starts to regress later on in his career. I would imagine that he could go very, very close again next year. He should improve for the run, and I wonder whether he gets a stronger pace next year. I don't think they went that hard here, and that would certainly suit Santini going forward. Lost in Translation is another one who you certainly have to mark up his run, and yet he wasn't beaten far. Colin Tizard's horses had been running terrible all week. Really, really moderate runs from most of his horses until Lost in Translation, who has gone very, very close. Jump in the last, it was still in the mix with Album Photo, with Santini just behind. Santini has finished slightly better than Lost in Translation, but if we give him even 5% for his trainer's stable quite clearly being out of form, that would arguably put him in front. So I've already suggested Album Photo was a good winner. Santini was arguably unlucky and could win it next year, and Lost in Translation has stable form. So there's three there that I think will go really close next year, and yet we haven't even included the likes of Top of the Game, Manila Indo, Champ, Alaho. There's loads that could turn up in the Gold Cup next year, and it was a good race this year, but it could be a really, really good race next year. One horse that I do think is worth a mention that didn't finish in the top 5 is Real Steel. How well did he travel on his first run over this trip? Travelled beautifully, came around the outside under Brian Hughes, coming to the second last, and looked like he was going to go really close. I don't know what he hit in running, but I bet it was short. I wonder if we can find that out, actually. Let me have a look. Let's see what he went. So as you can see, I've linked all of these pictures and the races so that we can have a look. So let's see. Real Steel. Well, he only went 18 points. No, he didn't. Sorry. That's wrong. Let me load up. Where is it? There it is. Win price reduction. So he reduced by 97%. Wow. That's a really... %. He's travelled so well from a starting price of 101.52, and he's just not got home. Dropping back to the Ryanair, and he's going to go very, very close next year, and I look forward to seeing him over a shorter distance. As we move on to the Fox Hunters, our selection, Hazel Hill, was a late non-runner, withdrawn just half an hour or maybe an hour before the Fox Hunters itself, and that was very disappointing, but there was obviously something wrong. The winner, wow, it came to pass, went off 224.95 on the exchanges. Did anyone back him? I have no idea. The horse to take out the race is the youngster, Bill Away. He's only 8, he finished second, and he was arguably given again too much to do by Patrick Mullins. Right out the back, he's finished strongly. I don't know whether Patrick Mullins thought, I know who that is in front and we'll pick him up, and hasn't given the winner enough credit or respect. But going forward, Bill Away could be a hunter chaser to follow for sure. All of the other horses are still getting older. He's arguably getting into his prime, so he's the one to take out the race. But there wasn't much to be that interested in, really. Moving on to the Grand Annual. Gordon Elliott, chosen mate, was very, very impressive. He travelled well, he jumped well, he was really well backed, and he's pulled away quite impressively from what's usually a very tight-knit field. There's not very many pounds. Horses don't have many pounds in hand here, and probably the front 3, who have all gone up in the handicap, may find things a lot tougher next time in similar races, just because it's so tight down at this 2-mile handicap division. The horse that I thought was interesting was Lisp. He travelled well, he jumped well, but he doesn't have the pace for 2 miles, or not here at least. Step him up in distance, and I think he can go really close. He's only 6, so I still think there's more improvement to come, and after appearing to get outpaced, he looked like he was going to finish way down the field, but he's continually tried, and he's actually finished probably a never near a 7th. You give him another half mile and he's well in contention there, and I would be very hopeful for the Brown Advisory next year if he turns up there. Or I've highlighted a race next January, the Bet365 Handicap Chase at Ascot, which should certainly suit. He's got some form in big handicaps at Ascot. It's over a bit further, and I hope to see him stepping up in trip. The final race of the day and the final race of the festival was the Martin Pipe Conditional Jockeys Handicap Hurdle, and I was really annoyed with myself. I had advised Indefatigable at 40-1 for the Coral Cup, and I'd read reports that she was running in the Mares Hurdle, and completely forgot about her, and didn't see her until too late, essentially. She has proven that she was ahead of her mark. Same with Dame de Compagnie, who had beaten her at Cheltenham in November, and it was clearly a very good race that they'd actually run in. Pillion was going to be a good winner, but also a lucky winner, because Column of Fire had fallen when really looking like he was going to go very close. He fell at the last. Pillion hit the front. He'd been well supported earlier on in the week, but had drifted on the day. He just got caught on the line by Indefatigable, who must have hit a big price in running. She looked in trouble turning for home before running on down the outside and up the hill really strongly. The horse I wanted to take out the race was the Boss's Oscar for Gordon Elliott. He didn't jump quite a few of the hurdles very well and was in a bit of trouble. And as I've said, was last with 3/4 of a mile to go. From the top of the hill to the hurdle to the bottom of the hill, he's picked up, but he was still a long way back. He was 18th. And it wasn't until turning in and up the hill that he has really finished. He's finished really strongly to finish 5th, when running into the back of a few horses. He ran into the back of the Great White Shark, who finished 3rd. If he'd got a clear run, he probably would have finished 3rd, maybe even closer. And if he'd been slightly more prominent, I think he would have been the one to win this race or go very close against the Column of Fire, who was, as we said, unlucky to fall at the last. He's only 5. He's certainly got more to come, and I think they'll step him up in trip next year and aim for the 3 mile Pertemps final. Obviously, Gordon Elliott has a very good record in the Pertemps final. The 3 mile trip should suit. He's definitely well handicapped when he gets conditions and things go to plan, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing him next season up in distance. So yeah, they are our Cheltenham Festival reviews for all 4 days. I hope you've enjoyed them. Please do get in contact, leave us some feedback. You can follow me on Twitter at RTR_Liam. You can send me a message. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you want to hear about. We're still around. We're very much on social media, and you can catch us pretty much all the time. We do have the live chat support as well, but please only use that for support. And we hope you've enjoyed all of our podcasts to date. Thanks very much for listening, and keep well, keep safe, and we look forward to the British racing rejoining the Irish racing, and getting back on the road and finding more winners. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.